Are you someone who has difficulties with your emotions basically getting in the way of maybe everything? Let's talk about emotional mastery. Where do emotions come from? Where are they housed? And how do we manage them? Let's go. Welcome to Phoenix Rising, a superior podcast for all of your transformative tools for personal and spiritual growth. Let's go get that nugget. When I was younger, and pretty much well into my 30s, I had a little bit of a temper. Now, I am a redhead, so sometimes I think it comes with that. We're pretty fierce. I don't know that I could really apply it to being a redhead, but I will apply it to having an older brother who would taunt me endlessly. So my brother's 16 months older than me, and I remember him, he was very sneaky. And I remember him like coming into my room, he'll take something out of my room, and then he'll run down the hallway and up the stairs, and he'll throw it out the window and the upstairs, in our upstairs playroom. And I'm like, really? Like, seriously? And then of course I'm screaming through the whole house because it was my favorite doll or it was my whatever. And I have all these crazy stories of like, he was very rough, like most boys, you know, guns and tackling and football and throwing things and breaking stuff. And that was kind of his childhood. And I had, remember Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street? I had a pretty good sized Bert, and my brother would play football with him. And Bert was probably close to about 3 feet, maybe 2.5 feet or something. And he was just a plush doll. And my brother would play football with him. And while he was throwing him or wrestling with him or whatever, he kept tearing his arm off. And so by the time my mom had re-sewn Bert's arm back on, I would say probably the 17th time, Bert's arm was probably half the size. Funny now, not funny when I was a kid. And then I did not have very many Barbies. I didn't really care for Barbies, but my friends had Barbies, and so I figured I should get one too. I had a Barbie that I didn't really care for. I had a Skipper with the horse, which I did really like. And then I had a Ken doll, and he was super cool. He came with the tennis outfit, right? So I'd put him in the tennis outfit. My brother decided he was going to play with him with his G.I. Joe. Well, G.I. Joe is definitely tougher than Ken in his tennis outfit, and my brother ripped his arm off. So I had a short-armed Bert and a one-armed Ken. That was my life with my brother. But I will tell you this. Anger became my number one emotion. I was happy when nobody was bugging me or teasing me or stealing my stuff, or I was angry. I dealt with that for a long, long time. And today, I want to talk about emotional mastery because, you know, the really cool, fun thing, I want to say it's cool and fun, but it can be very challenging, is managing your emotions. But the things I'm going to tell you today, I think are going to really help you to understand about your emotions, but also give you this broader perspective so you can manage them if they sometimes get out of hand. So all of this mindfulness that I've been talking about for almost 500 episodes, I can't wait to say 700 episodes, but almost 500 episodes is basically minding your body and your mind and paying attention to what your thoughts, your beliefs, the stories you're telling yourself, all of the things that are a part of us, our thinking, our thoughts, our beliefs, our emotions, that's all our inner experience. Well, if you think of life, that is our inner experience. No matter what it is that you do in the outside world, you're experiencing it on the inside. So if you are feeling lackluster emotions or really hyped up emotions like anger or anxiety, then you're not really having a great earthly experience, are you? So today I want to talk about 3 things. One, I want to talk about where emotions come from. Then I want to talk about, which this was a big eye opener for me, is where they're housed. Once you know where the emotions are housed, that can help you to really develop this connection with yourself, but help you to move difficult emotions out of your body that don't feel good when you're experiencing them. And then the third is the overall how to manage them. I like to talk about emotions as the energy from within. It's related to our thoughts. It's also related to our intuition. And when our emotions show up, that is, well, the science is, the really behind it is to let us know if we need to change what we're doing, if we need to run and jump, if we need to disappear, if we need to hide. So it helps our body to move based on what our senses are sensing and our our thoughts are thinking. And if I'm thinking a angry thought, my body gets angry. If I'm experiencing something that is making me scared, my body retreats or fights or runs. And all of these things, it's all about the information that we're taking in from the outside world through our senses, or the information that we're creating, the story that we're creating based on what we're seeing, like our thoughts, and also the intuitive nudges, if you will, that's what I like to call them, that help us to move and direct our behavior based on our desires and our purpose. So if I am sitting here in my house and all of a sudden I hear a knock at the door, my body moves. It wants to react in some way. I'm going to run and hide because it's the Jehovah Witnesses trying to convert me, or I'm going to dive behind the couch because it's a salesman trying to sell me a new roof, or it's my best friend coming over for a visit. So my body responds. So when we talk about where they come from, it is about the body and mind connection. Now, our body is the receiver. Our mind is the receiver of the outside energies. It processes what we're experiencing in our environment. And I see something, my brain quickly responds or quickly processes what it's seeing, and then my body responds based on what it's processing. So for example, if I go in my backyard and all of a sudden I see a black bear climb over my fence, my brain, through my senses, through my vision, my brain processes what it sees and basically will give some explicitive and then holy crap, and then quickly decide what I'm going to do. And then my body responds. It's going to run. It's going to grab a weapon. It's going to fight. It's probably not going to fight. It's a bear, but it's going to respond. So my body moves. That emotion is energy. And that's that in that energy that makes the body move in whatever way, whether it's run or hide or fight or curl up into a little ball and put your thumb in your mouth. It's going to do something, right? So that's kind of where it comes from. Those, to me, a quick, off the cuff podcast today, that's like the three places where our emotions come from. It's how we see it through our senses, what we think, because I can think anything I want right now. And in the sunshiny, beautiful day in my recording studio, in my office, my library, I can think of something that feels good, or I can think of something that feels scary, and my body will respond. So I want you to kind of bookmark that, because we're going to talk about that today. Or it is intuition. And even if you think, oh yeah, Jen, well, I really don't have intuition. You do. You might just not be aware of when intuition is nudging you versus when you are aware and you get this outside message or this outside physical sensation, but you're not sure where it's coming from. That's your intuition. It's like when you're walking down an alley, or you're about to put your key in the ignition and you get out of the car, or you're about to walk down an alley and somebody comes out from the dark and you're like, oh, good thing I stayed out here at the intersection and didn't go down that alley. Your intuition is like, wait, no, we're not going to go that way. But you got that message from somewhere else. So that to me are the three most main areas that we get that intuition from. Where we get our emotions from. Now let's go back to the thinking part. This is where I like to spend a lot of my time and a lot of my coaching, because what is it? Shakespeare says that everything is neutral, but it is our thinking that makes it so. Everything is just a thing. It's, traffic is just traffic, and the rain is just the rain. And this thing is, bees or cats or poverty. It's all just a thing, but it is our story that gives it meaning. And when we give things a bunch of negative meaning, then we are flooded with negative emotions. So this is the core in which I coach. And this is where I really love to spend time in this area, because there's so much change that can happen in this space. Once we realize that everything around you, whether it makes you happy or whether it makes you irritated, it's just a story. So if I see a pile of dishes, I might get thoroughly irritated. But somebody else sees a pile of dishes and doesn't think anything of it. Or someone else sees a pile of dishes and goes, oh my gosh, I love doing dishes. And they get really excited. Okay, well, it's just a pile of dishes, but we give it meaning. So let's move on to where the emotions are housed. When we are feeling negative emotions, when someone is in my coaching program and they say something like, I feel fear, and I go, how do you know? And they go, what do you mean? Well, because I'm not sure I'm going to get the job. And I'm like, well, I understand the story, but how do you know you feel fear? And usually they're confused, probably as much as you are right now. But how do you know? How do you know you're in a fear state? And eventually they come around to you and they go, because I feel it. And then I go, where? Where do you feel it? This is the heart of change. This is truly the ignition and the gas coming together. Is that right? The ignition, it's like the spark and the gas coming together to really make an explosion in your life in a good way, to make change. If you can get to this emotional state of neutrality and go, everything in my life is neutral, but what I want to do now is I want to make things more positive. I want to feel better. So if I know where they come from, it's my outside experience or my thought or my intuition. It's really my thoughts that I can quickly adjust. I can sit back, what I like to call is my workshop, where I go in and I do this work. I take my notebook, I take my journal. I have this giant 3-ring binder that I've mentioned 1,000 times where I work on limiting beliefs. And that's usually something like, okay, I go in my space and I go, what am I working on today? Oh, I want to work on how angry I get when I see piles of dishes. And I get to work on that. And then now when I see a pile of dishes, it means nothing to me. It doesn't trigger me into some big, surge of anger or irritation or whatever. I just feel neutral. Now, do the dishes get done? Yes, but that's not the point. The point is managing my emotional state on some of those outside triggers. So that's kind of the thoughts, right? The next is the environment. And so we're merging these two. Actually, that was the environment. The next is the thoughts. Here I've got this thing going on in my life that I'm upset about. I just balanced my checking account and holy crap, there's no money in my, oh man, this is so frustrating. Is now, what's at that trigger? I want to work on that. I want to change my thinking from lack thinking to abundance thinking. And so now I'm going to redirect my thoughts. So with those two pieces, this is where a lot of the work comes together, where what is my main state of being? Well, gosh, Jen, I'm 47 years old and I'm constantly pissed off and I have this career I hate and my kids are graduated and gone and now I'm left with my spouse that I don't get along with and my dog is old and I don't have as much money or the freedom that I thought I was going to have at this time. And I'm kind of annoyed with life. And I go, okay, so let's figure this out. Now, if I want to change something, I need to kind of know where the problem lies, right? And when we talk about our emotional mastery, emotions is the result of our thinking. So if I take an external factor, that is the story I placed upon it. So if I take a rainy day and I give it a story, that story is positive, negative, or neutral. Oh, it's raining today. Okay, who cares? Or I've got a beach day. Oh, crap, it's raining. Now I'm annoyed because I can't go to the beach. I can work out these stories if I'm aware. And so as I'm aware of the story that I'm putting on that thing, I can at least be managing my emotions around the thing. Like when I'm at home during the day, nobody's here. I love it when it's rainy. I get a lot of recording done. I get a lot of office time done. I get a lot of my, I'm creating a membership area for my Chakras for Beginners course or my Chakras for Beginners group. I'm super excited about that. I'm like molding my coaching program and I'm really excited about that. And so I have a lot of working on the website. There's tons of stuff going on right now. But when it's really nice and it's sunny and 80 outside in Michigan, I'm like looking out on my backyard right now and there's sun brewing and clear blue sky. And I'm like, why am I not on my bike? I'm recording a podcast. Okay, focus. Be on the podcast. But it's hard. It's challenging for me, right? But when it's rainy, I get a lot of stuff done. So I have kind of positive response when it's raining. But you might have a negative response when it's raining. So, okay, let's talk about where they're housed. Because if you know where the basic emotions are housed, and if you are currently feeling a negative emotion that doesn't feel very good, there are certain techniques that you can do that go right into your body that help you to move that energy out. Okay, so let's start. So picture a whole physical body, head to toe. Let's start at the top, right behind your eyes. If I had to have you guess what emotion is housed right behind your eyes, what would you say? Now, I would love to be able to hear you right now, but pause this and think about it for a second. But right behind your eyes, typically, now this can be, there's a couple, you're probably coming up with them as we're talking about this. One is sadness, because that's where your tear ducts are, but that's where the energy that triggers the tears, but they can also be tears of joy, right? So this could be sadness or happiness or joy, okay? Move down into the throat, the jaw, the throat, the upper body, the arms, the shoulders, and the upper back. This is where anger is stored. So if I'm seriously angry, I'm wanting to what? I could punch something. I could throw something. I could squeeze something. I could push someone away from me. I could break a hold that if they have their arms around me, I could break the hold, right? I could flip a car over to rescue a kitten, right? It gives us all of this energy in our upper body and our jaw. You're clenching, you're grinding your teeth, you're flexing those muscles in your face. That's where anger is housed. The next is fear. Where do you think fear is? When you are afraid of something, where do you feel it? It's in your gut. It's in your lower abdomen between your sacral and your solar plexus. And you feel squirmy, right? And that squirmy gives you the sensation of nerves or butterflies or worms or like slimy feeling, right? That's fear. Then also, fear can be your legs. Now, the reason for this, think about this. Let's go back to the story of the black bear in my backyard. If I walk out and I see a black bear climbing the fence, I'm going to immediately move, right? It's going to take a second for my brain to process what's going on. And my body's going to move. Now, when your body gets that kind of energy, that kind of a signal, you're going to move quick. It doesn't matter if you have, you need a knee replacement. Your body is going to flip and run. Now, it might hurt like crazy on the other end when you get done running. But in the meantime, your body's going to move because your body is meant to, that's subconscious. That's where your subconscious mind is stored, is in your physical body. And you're meant to stay alive. Your subconscious mind wants to keep you alive. So we're not going to go and hang out with the bear, okay? You might come back around if someone calls you and say, wait, this is my bear. He's a pet, which isn't likely. But mostly you're going to run, and you're going to run super fast. The pupils dilate. The blood, the arteries and the veins also dilate. The heart starts pumping blood to move it to the limbs, to move it down the road. You start taking in a bunch of oxygen to get you going super fast. And you'll run faster than you've ever run in your whole life, no matter any injuries or pain points you have in your body. Okay? So there's fear, stomach and legs. Now, of course, our sexual sensations when we're wanting to, now there's two things. When you're wanting to have sex, create, or even be creative. So this was brought up, this was a long, long time ago at a women's retreat when I was learning this, is when sexual energy doesn't always mean that I want to actually have sex, but it can mean that I'm in this creative state. When you think of sex, now, of course, sex is enjoyable and whatever, but it's also this creative space. We're going to create a child, but it also can mean being creative. So keep that in mind. So that's in the lower part of the body, usually in sacral, the root, the genitals, of course. Now, the last one, we're just going to talk about these five basic emotions. The last one is happiness. Now, happiness, luckily, and because it feels so amazing, it triggers the entire body. It's head to toe. The fingertips are tingling. The body wants to move. It wants to dance. It wants to skip and hop or smile. I mean, there's all, if you go look at a kid who's 3 or 4 years old, take them wherever, take them to Disney, take them to some place that would be super, super happy, and look at their body. Sometimes they're crying, they're making noise, so their vocal cords, their throat is activated, they're moving their body all over the place, their hands, their fingers, their head, they're jumping around, they're moving their legs. That's happiness. Okay? And I want to give these last couple of steps. So happiness is a contracting, it's an expanding emotion, meaning that it gets bigger. When a kid is happy, they move a lot, they talk a lot, and they talk loud. It's expanding energy. Anger is also an expanding energy. You also want to move. You also want to talk. And you want to talk loud, fast, and a lot. So sadness and sometimes fear, depending on the fear, but sadness is a constricting. It goes inward. It wants to curl up into the fetal position. It wants to go into the bed and put the covers over their head, want to climb into the dark closet, right? It's constricting, it's restricting, okay? And fear can be, because it depends on the fear. If I'm going to say in 10 minutes you guys are going to go on stage, you might constrict, okay? You might kind of curl up. Also, it can be expanding, meaning if I see a black bear climbing into my yard, I'm going to take off running rather than go into the shed and, curl up into a little ball. I'm not going to do that. So now these are the emotion locations. Now, why would I know that? Why would that matter? Here's the thing. If you have a thought and you're starting to feel angry, we'll skip the thought part. I mean, we don't need to go back to the beginning, but if you're feeling angry and you just want to tear the house apart, here's what I would recommend. If you want to move that energy, you can't do anything about who you're mad at. Let's say it's your teen son and he stole the car last night and he ran into a pole or something and you're super mad at him and you want to just shake him, right? It's all your upper body. Is go to the gym and lift weights. Oh, you can't go to the gym? You don't want to lift weights? Okay. So go into a different room, go into your quote workshop, which is what I always call it. Go into your workshop, move your upper body. Open and close your mouth. Clench and relax your jaw. Flex and extend and expand your upper body. Do some twists. Lift your arms up and down. Stretch them out, all the way out, because it's expanding energy. And then stretch your shoulders. I'm doing this now while I'm sitting in my office chair. And stretch your shoulders and open your chest and close your chest and expand your back and move all those upper body muscles. And then sit there and just relax for a minute. And then assess. Do I still feel angry? Yes, I do. Okay, then do it again. And then do it again. And then you assess. Now, is this the same as, I'm just going to take 10 deep breaths? Yes, it is. However, this is faster. And the best part is it moves the energy out instead of just burying it. This is the difference between bottling up my emotions and becoming a master of my emotions. I'm sitting here, I'm recording, and I see this, I see my sliding glass door. I'm like, man, that thing is dirty. Whatever cleans in here. How come I'm not getting any clean? How come these windows are so dirty? Look at this floor. How come nobody, and I just go on and on, all of a sudden now I'm mad. How come, oh man, why is this house so, right? But instead, I can move my body and come back to neutral about how I feel about things, how I feel about that particular thing. Now I'm managing my body. I'm managing my emotions. Now do the same thing with fear. What can I do? Well, how about some deep belly breaths? When I would go on stage early on in my career, I was a public speaker. I would still consider myself a public speaker. I just don't have as many talks as I used to, years ago, but it is something I absolutely love. But when I would go on stage, I would get really nervous. My stomach would be really nervous. And so what do? You take deep breaths, but don't take deep breaths up into your chest. Take deep breaths into your belly. And what you're doing is you're moving. So you're breathing in, like I would say, I'm breathing in confidence and I'm breathing out nerves. I'm breathing in leadership and I'm breathing out doubt. and I would be able to relax that sensation in my body. So when we start to manage our emotions here in this neutral place, so here, I remember telling the story a while ago, and I just want to breeze over it, but we were taking the boys downstate. No, we weren't. We were taking the boys downtown for something. I don't remember what the activity was. And Amy called me and said that Brandon got in a fight on the bus. Now, Brandon doesn't ever fight. He's not aggressive. He's if you poke him and you like poke the bear, he will become aggressive. I mean, if you're like arguing with him, he'll argue back. What we say is he matches energy. So if you get mad at him, he'll get mad back. But if you don't get mad, then he doesn't get mad. So he doesn't just haul off and hit somebody for no reason. Anyway, so this whole thing happened. He's got in this fight. He hit this kid and whatever. And Amy's telling me all about it. And I immediately am like getting all pissed off. And I'm like, you know what? I said, I want to work on this. Telling Amy on the phone, I'm like, I want to work on this. I'm going to let you go. I'll call you back later. A few minutes later, I call her back and it was totally fine because I did some work. I'm going to tell you the work I did in just a second. And I called her back and I'm like, I'm just fine. She's like, wow. She's like, what did you just do? I'm like, I did some emotional management work. And she's like, you should do that all the time, right? Because I'm like, I fly off the handle for the stupidest things. Well, once I recognize, okay, you're there and I don't want to be there and I'm curious. Why am I acting like that? Why did I get mad? Well, because when I grew up, when I would get in trouble at school, which didn't happen very often, but I would get in trouble in other ways, not necessarily school. Like I'd be late coming back. I did something to my bike and I left my bike someplace because I blew a tire, didn't know what to do. My mom's like, are you joking me? Go get your bike. And she'd be mad because anytime I did something, quote, wrong, she would get mad. So I adopted that response. That, if somebody does something wrong, you should get mad. So then I got to the bottom of it. I moved my upper body. I got all the anger out. But then in that neutral place, now this is where we're moving into number 3 is how to manage it. As I moved into that neutral place where now I could give a different definition to the story. I could look back and go, okay, I don't want to get mad at my kids anymore when they do things wrong. And guess what? Since then, and I don't know, that was 3 or 4 years ago. And I have teen boys. They do things wrong all the time. But since then, my response has never been angry. Since then, I did the work and that was it. Versus therapy will tell you take, 10 deep breaths. And they call it anger management. Take 10 deep breaths and just think about what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. But guess what? You're going to be angry 10 minutes from now because you're not actually moving the energy out. You're keeping it there. You're just breathing past it. You're calming your set. That is something to do. I mean, that is definitely a workable thing in the interim until you can actually move the energy out. Then you can give that story new meaning. When you give it new meaning, you now don't respond the same way. So in a second, I might not be able to move my arms up and down, but I might be able to breathe so I can get past this moment. And then after that, think about the moment, get angry, move your body, and give that story new definition. Now, I talk about on my podcast all the time about managing your thoughts. Now, if I'm taking the things in my life, and this is where you can do this on purpose, is you go into your workshop and you go, okay, what are the things that really piss me off? Let's just name 3 of them. Okay, here's these 3 things. What can I do about that? Well, this is where we can start to give it new meaning. We can give the stories that we tell ourselves new meaning. And I love the ability to do that. When we can become aware, and now hopefully this podcast has helped you to become aware, where do our emotions come from? So the environment, our thoughts, and intuition. And then where they're housed, we talked about that, where these emotions are housed in our body. And when I say housed, they are there until you're ready to release them. They stay there. So if you take some traumatic event that anybody on this planet has had that has been over 25 years ago, and I go, let's talk about that traumatic event, guess what? They can feel that event as if it's happening 10 minutes ago. Now, why is that? Because that energy is stuck in their body. This is the work that I do, is I help women move that energy out. Give new meaning to their experiences. Give new stories to the thoughts that steer them in the wrong direction. When we are in alignment with our goals, we feel happy, we feel motivated, we feel determined, committed. But when we're not, when our emotions show up and we're angry, we're depressed, we're anxious, then guess what? We are not in alignment with our goals. Something is askew. We're in discord. Our mind and our desire, our heart, is not in agreement. The belief bridge, is not connecting these two. When they're connected, you're in the flow. When they're not connected, you're in discord. And when you're in discord, something needs to change. And what we usually do is we try to change the environment. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm seriously tired about trying to change the outer environment. So I go inward and go, what else do I need to change? I need to change me, the stories, the thoughts, the beliefs, to then indirectly manage your emotions. Thank you for listening. If you liked that episode, please subscribe, like, or write a review. Let me know how that landed with you. If you'd like to support this podcast, please check out in the show notes where you can buy me a chai tea, or you can join my newest podcast membership for exclusive episodes, guided meditations, and transformative exercises that you won't find anywhere else. Bring your journal, open your heart, and let's get ready for some serious transformation.